Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a 22-year-old White House photographer? I mean, if you're like me, then no, but then also yes, because that's pretty cool. So today, I'm going to share an interview with Jonah Elkowitz, who is just that. We're going to talk about how he got there, what his experiences were like, and also what the differences were with regards to media between the Biden and the Trump administration. So grab a coffee, sit back. This is really cool. You and I have known each other now for, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 years or so. You were in high school and you were just kind of getting into photography. Next thing you know, you're at the White House, you're at the State of the Union. And just for the record here, for our listeners, Jonah's 22. And so I wanted to have you on just to talk about all of that. I've got so many questions.
I would love to talk about it. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Just to set the stage here, I have this here in front of me. I want to just let everyone know what I'm looking at, okay? So you have photographed in both of the recent White House administrations. You were there for both Biden and Trump. You've got photos at the State of the Union with Biden. I've got another here. It looks like in Congress. It looks like Hakeem Jeffries, Mike Johnson. You've got Jerome Powell. It looks like you were there for the Mark Zuckerberg congressional hearings.
Yes, the big tech hearing early last year.
We've got photos of Schumer, Matt Gaetz, Laura Trump. I mean, everything. It looks like you're right up there close in the pool with your camera lens in the beast, in the president's car window, like getting a photo of him there. RFK Jr., Mitch McConnell, Elizabeth Warren. I mean, you were everywhere. Like, tell me about this. Oh, wait. And can I just brag one more time real quick? All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I want to make sure I'm just bragging about you. Because then you've got publications like Politico, Forbes, United Press International, the New York Post, Page 6, National Geographic, the Daily Northwestern, which is your alma mater, and that's just to name a few. So, like, Jonah, talk to me. Like, how did this come about, other than your awesome photography? And, like, I have tons of questions.
No, absolutely. So this editorial, political photography has really become a passion of mine, something that I didn't really understand until I went to D.C. for a semester for Northwestern's Medill on the Hill program. I actually got rejected from the program, and I called or I emailed the program director, and he was like, this isn't a photo program. I thought you would be disappointed. And I'm like, well, let's figure out how we can do it. And that moment really changed everything. And I'm so glad. I mean, now like that photo director is one of my good friends. He wrote a recommendation letter for me for law school. He is a mentor, friend. I'm glad that he took a chance on me. When I was there, one of my friends connected me with somebody at Politico, and they ended up bringing me on as an intern while I was there. They really got me into the State of the Union address, which I was so lucky to be able to photograph. That was an amazing experience. And then later that same year, I was doing my journalism residency, which is a Northwestern program. And I arranged it sort of outside of the normal bounds with the New York Post, which I thought would be a really great opportunity. And they really let me loose with the photography stuff. I got to cover RFK Jr. in Long Island at a rally, which was a really, really fun experience. I would say the program was really the catalyst for a lot of the political photography and sort of showing me a different side of photography that I hadn't had that much experience with before. I've documented a lot of social justice work and editorial photography in that sense, but the raw politics stuff is something more new to me. I've only been doing it for a year or so, but it's really an incredible side of photography that I'm so glad that I discovered, because I really, really enjoy it. And I think it's really fulfilling, and you get to be there for all these important moments. I think one of those in particular was when President Biden was talking about a tentative agreement related to the Israel-Hamas war. And I was in the room when he was, announcing it. And it was like such a surreal thing to just someone my age to be there.
And so were you part of like a press pool, or how does that work? You have your pass and you can just go when you want to go, or there are events and you get invited to come to the events, or how does the whole access part work?
That's a great question. And that's something that always continuously changes from administration to administration. But when I was there, first under the Biden administration, then the Trump administration, partly, they're actually very inviting to people who are not from the main wire outlets, so to speak, or, big journalism outlets. So they really do make it accessible to get in there for things like arrivals and departures, where the president leaves the South Lawn on Marine One, or press conferences with the press secretary. Those things are very accessible to the press. Obviously, when you start getting into Oval Office executive order signings, when you start getting into announcements like that, those events are typically restricted for the pool, which is generally coordinated by the White House Correspondents Association and the sort of the press wing of the White House. I did not get access to that kind of stuff, but you do get access to a lot of other things just being a general member of the press. And there are also certain events where they will, email you and you have to request access beforehand. And there's a limited number of people that they'll allow, for space, for occupancy reasons, for a lot of other things. But I've generally had a really good experience under both administrations with being accommodating to student journalists. And obviously I was contributing to different wire services, UPI and Alamy and Shutterstock. But I found that they were super inviting and open to capturing a lot of different things going on at the White House. In terms of from my program, at least when I was there, I was the only one with a hard pass. So the hard pass, I kind of think is like the Disney fast pass, so to speak. You don't really need to have an appointment with the Secret Service to get into the White House grounds. That gives you, for the most part, daily access to what they call Pebble Beach, which is where, and the press briefing room, which is where the press sort of hangs out when they're awaiting different events throughout the day. So the hard pass really was a great way to get that fast pass access, especially when, Biden was arriving via helicopter or something like that. I would run over there. It really just gave the flexibility to be able to go in there whenever something was going on, which was a really, really great thing. And I have it with me. I keep it on my desk as like I like to look at it. It's a great reminder that, students and young people deserve to be in the room.
And it's enabled you to grow so much as a photographer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, grow in terms of learning to be in a fast-paced environment like that. With the president, with members of the cabinet, with members of Congress, like that was a huge experience. And also meeting other people. There are so many amazing photographers that you see on Instagram and you see, on AP and all those websites, but you actually don't know who they are until you interact with them. And I was lucky to interact with many of them at different points in DC, and getting to learn about them on a personal level, on a professional level, was something that I also really appreciated.
Evan Vucci?
Absolutely.
Love that guy. I don't know him, but I love his work. So you got to meet him?
Yeah, Evan Vucci so he's the chief White House correspondent photographer for the Associated Press. So he travels with the press pool usually, to what I have seen, and he's also just in the White House all the time. So I've come across him. I mean, we've shared sandwiches together, waiting for delayed arrivals for the president. He's such a great guy. Many people will probably know him from the photo of Trump when he was shot at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, with him raising his fist. He's just a super friendly guy and really likes to help the younger generation. And also an incredible photographer.
Unbelievable.
And with that, also, when you're there's so many different photographers that you get the same experience with different perspectives, different editing. And that was another thing, like going to the editing rooms and seeing like how, we were all in the same room, but how people captured the moment so differently, was really helpful for me, and seeing, where I could improve, especially when a lot of people are taking the same shot. It really matters to know how you can differentiate yourself. Because a lot of times you're just, with photo sprays and stuff, it's just a line, so you're in the same row as a bunch of photographers. You get like a minute and then it's over. So in that minute, you've got to find a way. Obviously you want to get the frontal shots and that sort of stuff, but learning how to capture that moment from a different angle, maybe someone didn't think of or didn't see. That takes time. It takes experience. It takes practice, but it's a really important skill.
I love hearing all this. We could talk for another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time.
No, likewise. Absolutely.
I do have a few questions. So, one, just quick question is, how different of an experience is it from the Biden administration to the Trump administration? And what is, say, the major difference as a photographer with access to the White House?
At least, I'm speaking from the few times that I went during the Trump administration. So I was there for the semester when President Biden was there. So I got to sort of be there for a lot more stuff. But some of the things I've noticed, at least being there for a couple of Trump, events is that there are a lot more of them. There are a lot more open press events in the day that people will get to see that maybe they didn't get to see previously. I don't know if that's just because more of the events are made public or because the president is having more events. I'm not exactly sure, but I've just noticed that there are more opportunities, world leaders coming to the White House, that sort of thing. And also, in terms of like the hard pass experience, they were really great to renew my pass for the Trump administration. Obviously the Biden administration started it and then Trump renewed it. Both have been pretty good, I would say, with the hard pass stuff, at least from my experience and to people I've talked to. But as what happens with administration to administration, some of the rules change, but generally I felt that, both have been really open to members of the media, especially like myself, someone who's maybe younger and doesn't have that kind of, mainstream media or at the time didn't have that experience. I haven't been doing photography for 30 years and I certainly haven't been in DC for that long. So I really kind of felt under both that there was a lot of access, and I'm grateful that they've kept me coming back and allowed me to go and take pictures and capture these moments. And I'm very grateful.
That's really nice to hear, because from an outsider perspective, it seems that Trump has a much more antagonistic relationship with the media. And he may actually have that, but it seems like the idea of having this almost increased frequency and maintaining your access and keeping that going is actually very positive in my opinion, because from the outside looking in, it seems like there's a lot of tension there.
Yeah. No, definitely the relationship is different. And one of the interesting things that I've seen also is a lot of the, especially when Trump was doing the signing of the executive orders, or when he signs executive orders, who usually have the press in there for I would say typical Oval Office spray is like a couple minutes. I've seen ones where Trump has the photographers and the press in there for like an hour, which I don't, think a lot of people expected. So there's definitely a lot of variation. I mean, for me, it's the more time, the better. The more time to take those pictures is always a great thing, and to just be in the room when things are happening. But those are just some of the changes that I've heard from people on the ground that are going on, some of the things that I've witnessed. But obviously things are always up in the air. Things are changing. So what I might have seen a month ago might be different today. But generally, those are the trends I would say that have been kind of occurring behind the scenes and also among the press corps.
Cool. Any tips for people that are listening to this that have an interest in this type of photography or getting into politics, political photography? Anyone that wants to move into this field and get experience? Yeah,
I think the first thing is, starting local and starting with what's around you. So if you have a representative that, congressional rep or a local House rep or something like that, a state rep, there's a lot of ways to go cover what they're doing, their events, their stuff like that. All of these politicians and all of these, political parties, et cetera, and political events, they all have media teams. They have media emails. I would say the first thing to do, especially to start building a portfolio, if you can't just, go into the White House, which is a privilege, and also the access can be difficult for things like that. I would say start with what's around you and start with, seeing what your access is, because a lot of times, they want members of the media there. They want people taking pictures. I would also say to look at different platforms. There's a lot of stock image programs that, will look for photos like that. So if you get a photo of a politician or someone speaking, you can upload it and make money from it as well, if that's something you're interested in doing for editorial purposes. There's a lot of websites, Shutterstock, Alamy, that do that kind of work. But I would say really, I think it's more about what you capture rather than who you capture. Obviously, the person being important is relevant for news purposes. But I think if you can build a portfolio of good moments and really distinctive shots that might not be of the president of the United States, I think there's a lot of value to that. And I think if you're interested in obviously working your way to do that, you can reach out to the White House press office. If you're interested in doing things at the Capitol, you could reach out to the appropriate, photo and video galleries for that. But I would say if you're interested in doing something more localized, people want to have photos taken. It's a big thing. And there's a lot of opportunities. Like if you want to do that kind of photography, obviously you can be, try and intercept people paparazzi style. But if you want to go and cover it for your own outlet or for your own purposes, especially as a student. A lot of these organizations are very friendly, and politicians really love having students and student journalists. So I think you got to shoot your shot. You got to, be resourceful. You got to see what's around you. There's a lot of opportunities. You just got to go into it. And also, stay tuned to what's going on social media as well. Like when Trump was going to all those trials last summer, like when I wasn't working, for my internship, I would be trying to see where he was. I went to Trump Tower and camped out and took pictures. But I think at least in this day and age, there's a lot of opportunities to get involved with stuff. And I think you just gotta go and do it. And if you like it, you can contribute for different outlets and then work your way up. And obviously, ideally, the tippy top is, getting access to things like Air Force One, which is, is still on my bucket list. It's a very difficult thing to do, but I think there's a lot of avenues to do it. There's a lot of avenues to get involved.
Jonah, thank you for your wisdom and sharing your experiences. It's terrific. There's a lot of people in this country, and not all of them have access to
There's a lot of people in this country. No, yeah. And it's like, if you could tell from the pictures that I have done, like it's really piqued my interest in this sort of genre of photography that I don't think any other has. Like I love doing street photography and astrophotography, but something about doing this kind of editorial photography is really, really exciting and fulfilling. And it's certainly a very interesting thing that I've had the privilege of being able to participate in. It's something that I think one of the top experiences of my short, life so far, but it's something I'm going to remember, I think, for a long time.
At the end of every episode, I ask my guests 3 questions.
Go for it.
All right, here we go. First question. What's your favorite genre to shoot and why?
Wow. I might surprise some people, but actually probably not. But I think for me, it's been, and I think it will continue to be, is street photography. Like street photography it's the lowest barrier to entry. It's something you can do virtually anywhere, anytime, any place. And it's one of the most fulfilling genres that I've been able to participate in.
I feel the same way. One of the things, street photography is not always on the street. It could be just anywhere, right? And I think I mentioned the other day when I was having my appendectomy, I pulled out my iPhone. I was taking photos in the emergency room, and
you sent me a few. I was like, yeah. I didn't even know you were allowed to do this.
Oh no, you're not. You're not allowed to do this. But it wasn't. First of all, I was very respectful of people's privacy, and also the photos they kind of sucked because I was, my appendix was about to come out. I was sitting there on a gurney, or not a gurney, like a stretcher, a bed, and I'm just like, oh. So the photos were not really as good as they could have been. All right, question number 2: what camera brand do you shoot on?
I shoot Sony. I think Sony is the OG. I really do. When you're making sensors for your competitors, you're the one to buy. That's my opinion.
What Sony do you have?
I shoot with 2 bodies normally. The A7 III, which is at this point a pretty old camera, but that's still one of my workhorse cameras. And I recently actually got, only a few months ago, I got the A7 IV, which I really, really love. That camera is amazing. And then when I was in DC, I was shooting my family member's A7C, which is, the full frame sensor in like the body of a crop sensor, like the Sony A6000 body, but with the full frame sensor. Well, what do you shoot primarily?
Sony.
Ricoh or Sony?
No,
yeah.
The
okay.
Ricoh is just my little pocket camera. When I want to look like when I want to be discreet and I'm just out. I used to have the A7 IV. Love that camera. But I shoot with the A7R5 now. I love the A7R5 because it's got the 60 megapixel sensor. It has the new tilty screen that goes in like 16 directions. I love that. It's
a great camera, the 5. I like that one a lot, but I'm glad you shoot and enjoy it. It's a nice camera.
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right. And question number 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, how often do you get that burning itch to just get out there and shoot photos?
I mean, probably like a 7, 6, but at least while I'm in school, I found ways to try and do. I mean, I do photography weekly at this point. I do a lot of gigs for different clients. I'm not really going out and doing the street photography stuff as much, but I would say the wanting to do the street photography stuff, that is probably like a 7, an 8, especially with what I'm doing now. I could certainly use a break, and I think that would be a great opportunity to go out and take one.
Where can people find you? Instagram, your website? And I want everyone to go look at Jonah's work.
Yeah, everyone can find me. I use Instagram pretty often. Jonah Elkowitz on Instagram, just my first and last name. And then also my website, if you want to take a look at my work, jonahelkowitz.com or jelkphoto.com, that redirects to the same site.
Awesome. And if you're like me and you need it spelled out, that's JONAHELKOWITZ. And that's on Instagram and his website.